Truth be told, some of y'all be taking deload weeks on the regular because you're not working at high enough intensities. LOL. Today's video is going to be the down and dirty on deloads, what they are, when to use them, and if you even need it to be doing them in your training. My name is Annie Miller, Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, and I help you learn as you train and enjoy your lifts again. Today, we do that by getting either you or your clients to rest when you need to in order to come back stronger for your training. You are not used to seeing me half naked or in a sports bra, but I am 24 weeks pregnant. During this video, it is the third video we filmed today, and I'm fucking hot. A deload week is when you lower the load and the volume of your normal exercises. In traditional strength and power training, deloads are a must. In fact, they're naturally built into many of the classic strength training programs like the Wendler 531 and the Juggernaut training methods. Deload weeks are used in order to continue pushing and building those 1 rep maxes or maximal effort lifts like you would see in strength or power training. The idea here is to give your body, your muscles, your joints, your CNS, and your mind time to recover from accumulated stress and training demand from past phases that you've performed. Remember that training, if you're pushing even relatively hard in the gym, is a stress. Training is catabolic, meaning to break down by nature. If we want the gains, the anabolic effect of training, be it strength, muscle size, metabolic adaptations, we have to give the body time in order to recover from that stimulus. Let us put on our learning caps and review the idea of supercompensation. Supercompensation is simply what we want from our training, to repeatedly provide stress or stimulus and then have the body adapt stronger or more efficiently. Before that comes general adaptation syndrome, or GAS. On a 72-hour scale, that looks like this. So think like one training session. You start at your baseline or your homeostasis. Quick note on this, my biology teacher in high school, Miss Waters, taught us homeostasis, and all through college, I could not look at this word or say this word without thinking about that in Miss Waters, so quick shout out to Miss Waters. Then comes the catabolic situation that we discussed earlier, the shock phase. That is the training. Ideally, then we have resistance, or your body adapting to and finding a new baseline in response to your training. Then you have exhaustion, the need for rest and recovery before the next training session. In this case, before training the same muscle group or stimulus again. We always want to be overreaching with our training, providing new levels of stimuli to the heart, the muscle, the lungs, etc., as to elicit progressive overload and make the gains. If you are indeed pushing, and not resting, then you may end up overtrained or under-recovered. That would be the green in this image. And that would be where a deload week would be very helpful for this trainee. Let's say you push for 3 phases in a row. You're upping weights, you're hitting higher percentages or adding reps at the same weight, and you've got another phase ahead of you. Maybe you take a deload week at the end of that 3rd phase before beginning your next one, as to not enter the 4th phase fatigued. If you're a trainee who lives for the burn and only believes a good workout is one that leaves you gripping the wall as you sit on the toilet, then deload weeks are going to be a mental struggle for you. But I'll bet that plateauing or going backwards in your training performance or your physique will be even more of a struggle for you, so just take the deload week. By now, you get the gist of a deload week. The goal is to lower overall stress to the body, mechanical stress and metabolic stress. Do less, God bless. I am not going to lose sleep over how much you lower the intensity by. I am sure there is a threshold of some kind, but I don't have that on hand. You're going to deload everything outside of your warm-up. So main sets and accessory work, that assumes you're doing some kind of traditional strength training. I generally have clients work at 70% of what they would normally. If you're using an RPE, or rate of perceived exertion, as your loading method, then you would think an RPE of 5 or 6. You can also lower volume as well, but you don't have to. This might depend on the current training program that you're following. If volume is already relatively low, so think like 3 sets of 5, 3 sets of 8, then perhaps keeping volume the same is fine. If you're working at higher volumes, sets of 4 or 5 and 10 reps, then you may want to consider dropping volume as well. but same as intensity, 70% of the normal volume is probably gonna be safe. You will not lose your gains in 1 week. If you're worried about taking time off or lowering the stimulus, that is the literal point of a deload. Trust me, your body will thank you and come back feeling stronger and hopefully being stronger from a performance standpoint. So how often should you deload? Some programs like the Wendler 531 or the Juggernaut have you taking a deload at the end of each phase before heading into a new one. That is not necessary for most general population. For instance, in my Built by Annie programs, we take 4 deload weeks throughout the entire year where it makes most sense for the program. Generally speaking, a deload week makes the most sense after a high demand phase of training and or before another high demand phase of training. In reality and in training for the long haul, most of you will likely get sick, go on vacation, or just want a break from training hard. These scenarios can make for really natural deload weeks. You can intentionally push hard leading into a vacation, knowing that you're going to back off intensity and likely volume while you're on that vacation. Sickness or acute injury can be a deload if not severe, but if you're super sick, I'd almost re-enter training via a sort of deload week after being completely down for the count. If you're training for strength or power, you're likely working through a phase up to a 1, 3, or 5 rep max. Deloads, as I said, make sense at the end of a 1 to 4 month building block, depending on the programming that you're following. For those working more bodybuilding or hypertrophy style, you can just choose a time or look at individual biofeedback. For instance, if we see that resting heart rate is starting to rise and the HRV is maybe falling, more than a week at a time, that might be a good time to implement a deload because we need to let the body recover more adequately. In this case, you may feel subjectively a bit more sluggish and run down. We never want to just rely on wearables like a watch or an Oura Ring, but they can be a helpful tool. If you missed it, I have video reviews of both the Oura Ring Gen 3 and the Polar Unite watch and the heart rate strap that goes with it, so be sure to check those out if that's of interest to you. Deloads might just be the missing piece to your program design or your training if you're a coach or a trainee. Just remember, you probably don't need a deload if you're not pushing pretty freaking hard in the gym. AKA, if you're never working up to an RPE of 8 or 9, leaving 1 to 2 reps in the tank per set, you may be just fine continuing to train without deloads. Maintenance is a thing, and it's quite all right. Are you currently doing deloads in your training? Have you done them in the past? Let me know down in the comments. I remember 2 seasons of training where deloads were essential. Both involved max effort lifting for sure. One was the Wendler 531. Working to those legit 1 rep maxes and just working at high percentages week after week required those deloads for me, and I actually very much so look forward to them. The other one was when I did isometric pin work 1 week with an alternating speed chain work the following week. I was dead. I've never felt CNS fatigue from lifting like that in my entire life, and I have not since. It was gnarly and very much so demanded a deload after every 6 weeks of that program. I will say that isometric pin work is wildly underused and probably underrated in gaining strength and getting past sticking points in many of the main lifts, but that is perhaps for another video. That is all I have for today. Happy gains, you guys. I hope you're taking your deloads, and I will see you in the next one.